Hello, everyone. Welcome to the February edition of the Product Ops HQ virtual meetup. I'm Anna. I'm your community manager here at Product Ops HQ, and I'm also part of the Dragonboat team, joining you from Portugal. So I'm super excited to be hosting today's session on all about product ops in the age of AI. As we wait for more people to join us, please feel free to let us know where you are tuning in from. You can drop it in the chat. With me today is Leah. She's also from the Dragonboat team, and she will be in the chat to assist you with some questions and also sharing some helpful resources with you. Okay, so let's wait a little bit. I will check the chat. Okay, we have people from Atlanta, Washington, Las Vegas, United Kingdom, California, Graham, hi Graham, Montreal, Canada, yeah. Okay, a lot of people, India, oh, nice. Okay, I can see some familiar faces here in the chat, some new ones too. So if this is your first meetup with us, a big welcome to you. Our community was created for product ops professionals like you to bring all together so you can learn, share, and grow together. We also have a Slack group where you can connect with others. So you can ask questions, keep the conversation going. So if you haven't joined us yet in Slack, be sure to check it out. Leah is dropping the link in the chat for you. Of course, we wouldn't be here today without the support of our sponsor. Our sponsor is Dragonboat. For those who don't know anything about Dragonboat, Dragonboat is an AI-powered strategic portfolio management platform, and it is designed for everyone in a product operating model, from CPOs to product managers, product operations, and their teams. It helps set clear strategies, build portfolio roadmaps, and deliver products that delight customers and accelerate business outcomes. Dragonboat is more than just a platform. They are your partner in achieving product operating excellence, which includes building and sponsoring our community of strategic and product and operations professionals. So if you want to learn more, check out dragonboat.io. Leah will also share that link in the chat. So, okay, so last month we had an exciting conversation about the top predictions for product ops in 2025. And we kind of talked a lot about AI. But today we are taking a step further by exploring how AI is already transforming our ways of working. We've got an incredible panel lined up, but before we get started, just a quick housekeeping notes. So the session, as you might see, it's being recorded and the link will be sent to your email after the meetup. This session will feature a panel of industry leaders, followed by a group discussion. So we encourage everyone to participate. But while the panelists are speaking, please keep your mic muted. And then after the panel, you are free to unmute yourself, share your thoughts, or if you prefer, you can also drop your comments in the chat. Because we have so many of us today, I really want to ask something. So this is a space to share real life experiences. So please, let's focus on knowledge sharing. What I mean by that is that if you are here representing a vendor, I kindly ask you that you avoid selling your own products. We want this discussion to be centered on learning and real world insights. Finally, stay with us until the end of the session because we also have a special surprise for you and a really good chance for you to help shape the future of product operations. And okay, with that, let me breathe, and let's get to the exciting part. So today we will be hearing real life use cases from industry leaders, and we are so lucky to have our incredible community member, Jenny Wanger, to moderate this session. She's going to introduce herself and our expert panelists and kick off the session. So without further ado, Jenny, thank you so much for joining us again today, and the stage is all yours.
Yeah, thank you, Anna. I am really excited to be here today. Uh, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Jenny Wanger. I consult and advise product ops people and people who want more product ops and aren't product ops people. And so that's really, I've been digging a lot into the topic of AI. And I'm really excited for today. I'm joining you from Boulder, Colorado, where it is currently 1 degree Fahrenheit outside. For those of you in Celsius, I believe that's about -20. So I'm very happy to be indoors and toasty warm. Um, if you missed last month's conversation, or if you haven't been on LinkedIn or talking to anybody else, just so you know, I think that this year is going to be a big year for AI and product operations. What I've sort of been seeing in terms of trends is that we've been we've been trying a lot of stuff and sort of starting to use it in a lot of individual workflows. So what I think is going to be happening this year, and a large part of this conversation here, is how to actually make it an enablement tool for product ops that's more systematic. So as opposed to the, hey, we've given everybody access to Chat GPT, it's how do we do stuff so that everybody in the organization is using the same model, is using the same practices, and is taking advantage of these tools in ways that are customized more to our organization. And I think that that's what we're really going to be seeing this year. And that's sort of the theme of today's conversation. So with that, we're going to be dropping a quick poll in the Zoom right now because just to help us get a sense of what your experience is like using AI right now, right? Where are you on this continuum? What are the things that you have been doing or not? And so that should be getting shared here. Go ahead and select your answers, and I'm going to keep moving on, but please feel free to, and we'll review the results in a moment. So I've sort of, this is not, I really, really, really welcome feedback on this model, but this is how I've been thinking about AI and product ops so far, right? Is sort of, there's a continuum of implementation effort from light effort to, high effort, generally requiring engineering resources, right? So we've got everything like off the shelf AI vendor tools, right? Every single tool that we're all using now has a little sparkle button somewhere because it's like, hey, use the AI thing with this, right? Or, my meeting recording tool has Ask Fred. And so everybody's put stuff in there, and the question is like, who's using it? Which are the useful things that people have provided? And how are we making sure that we are actually enabling our teams to take full advantage of those resources that are available within our current tools? Then there's sort of the single-use chatbots leveraging major LLMs, so like the custom GPTs, there, and all of like the Gemini gems, right? Like all of these things where you can put in some custom instructions and custom prompts to make a little bot that can do one thing and do it well. There's AI enhanced workflow automation. So things like having, if you wanted to have every single Jira ticket have a particular format, you could build out a little bot and then use Zapier so that every time a new ticket is made, the bot replies and says, hey, here's the format you should use. Like, can you improve your ticket in these 3 ways, right? Things like that, where you're using maybe Zapier to and these bots to sort of link into various things and connect your various pieces of your system together. And then finally, it's custom GPTs with proprietary data. So this is where you're really engaging engineers. You're doing things with the APIs that all of these LLMs are providing, or maybe you're even, you're adding in your own training data, right? You're worried about things like temperature, and you're looking at how the API is actually consuming data, and wanting to could be concerned about cost of the API usage and all of those things. So this is the spectrum that I look at and the framework we're going to be using today. Please do let me know what you think of this, and if you what's missing, what's wrong, because I really am trying to build it out further. But for today, this is our framework. And so we've got we're going to do 3 short presentations about various actual in the wild use cases of these things. So Janet Chen from House Call Pro is going to be sharing how she has really created some amazing capabilities on her team with customer insights with an off-the-shelf tool. I will be sharing a single-use chatbot that I have built that has enhanced my own workflows, and that I'll be giving everybody here access if you're curious to play with it yourself. And then we're going to skip the AI enhanced workflow automation, and Moy Gulati is going to be sharing a custom GPT that he built at RBC in Canada. For some really incredible tier 2, tier 3 customer support that has changed to the way that his team interacts with the rest of the company. So with that, we did ask ahead of time, how are you guys using AI today? And looking at that same sort of continuum, right? And what we saw is that there's a large number of people using those built-in AI capabilities within the tools. We're seeing some people who are starting to play with those, setting up external chatbots. And then in the product ops HQ Slack, there were a couple of people who were playing with those more intense use cases. Out on LinkedIn, not so much. So there's really a huge, we're seeing a lot of people sort of in the lighter stages of this journey and not so much further in. In terms of the group here, what we're seeing, is that we've got a lot of companies where people have access to the tools independently. We've got some basic training going on. A lot of people saying we're really early stages, right? And let's see. And then a couple of people, we've got 22 people saying we develop our own AI solutions in-house. So I would love to hear from those people, especially drop your use cases in the chat, because I would love to see what those are. And I'm sure everybody else here would love to hear, like, how are you going? Oh, and why is this scrolling? How are you really, really taking that forward? So awesome. Thank you all so much. And I'm really excited to get going. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Janet, who's going to talk about her use cases here.
Awesome. Thanks, Jenny. Hi, everyone. I'm Janet Chen, as Jenny mentioned, and I work on the product ops team at House Call Pro. I'm really excited to be here today to talk about how AI can transform the way product teams engage with customer insights. As product professionals, we all know that great decisions come from understanding our users, our customers. But the reality is, customer feedback is often overwhelming, scattered, and time consuming to analyze. So I'll walk through some of the biggest challenge we face when trying to extract meaningful customer insights, the hurdles of implementing an AI power insights tool, and how we can effectively train our teams to use AI for faster, smarter decision making. So let's dive in. Um, we all know product teams rely on customer insights to make decisions, but there are major challenges that slow us all down. So the first being data overload. Our product teams are inundated with data from multiple sources. You got your support tickets, NPS surveys. Your product managers are probably doing customer interviews and having to go through call transcripts. There's also, in product and in-app behavior, as well as a lot of our organizations now have social media feedback, just to name a couple. So manually sifting through all that data to find actionable insights is really time consuming, and takes away from our team's ability to spend time on more high impact items. The second being slow discovery. So traditional methods of analyzing insights involves a lot of manually tagging, qualitative data, running those surveys, conducting interviews, all of which can take anywhere from a few weeks to a few months. So by the time these insights are synthesized, customer needs may have already evolved, leading you to missed opportunities or outdated decisions. And then the third is bias and blind spots. So teams often rely a lot on anecdotal evidence. You have your loudest customers that are always making their voice heard, or personal intuition when making product decisions. So product teams then prioritize feedback of these loudest voices rather than what structured analysis may show. So confirmation bias can lead teams to focus only on the insights that align with pre-existing beliefs rather than what the data truly reveals. So by leveraging AI effectively, we not only can move faster, but we can make better and more informed decisions. Next slide, Jenny. Awesome. So adopting an AI insights tool can be transformative, but there are critical challenges that teams need to navigate. The first being data fragmentation. So AI works best when it can access a centralized structured data set, but most orgs have customer data spread across multiple sources. So like I mentioned, you might have a CRM platform, support tickets coming through something like Zendesk or Intercom. You might have a survey platform, a call transcript platform. So all these different tools in your toolkit at your organization. By connecting, multiple sources of data, your AI is able to ingest and unify all these data sources to kind of provide a more complete and holistic picture. The second is model training and accuracy. So many teams assume, an AI insights tool will work out of the box. However, it's really easy for AI to misinterpret industry specific terms, sarcastic feedback that your customers might be leaving, or mixed feedback. So it really needs that training data to learn the right context and be able to recognize those patterns. This requires you to fine tune for that industry specific language, and also continuously improve through human feedback. So installing AI isn't just about turning it on, it requires thoughtful data integration and continuous feedback. And then lastly, team buy-in and workflow fit. So overcoming resistance and ensuring adoption across your whole team, and then broader teams to your entire organization. So teams may resist leveraging an AI customer insights tool when they see it as, extra work to adopt, or they lack trust in its accuracy. So the key here is embedding it into existing workflows, and showing quick wins, which I'll share a little more on the next slide. So when it comes to training your team to use AI effectively, implementing is only half the battle. Then you got to train your teams to extract real value. The goal is not just to teach them how to use the tool, but to really empower them to interpret and on the AI generated insights effectively. So to start, you really want to make sure you have clear use cases and that define what those specific goals are. So key pain points AI might solve include, we need faster customer feedback synthesis, or we really struggle to quantify trends for our churn data. So then you want to include, defining specific goals. So what are our top 3 drivers of churn? What friction points appear most in onboarding? Really have those specific questions that you're going to use an AI tool to help answer. And then provide examples of what success looks like. So that might mean, once we use this tool, we're able to reduce our insights synthesis time from, 2 weeks down to 2 days. So having those specific examples of what success looks like for your team to aim for. And once a smaller subset of your team has fully adopted the tool, it's important to make sure you're sharing those wins with the broader team to kind of prove that value early on and gain buy-in from the rest of the organization. Second is to teach interpretation, not just usage. So, AI surfaces insights, but us as humans must contextualize them. So, without that proper interpretation, a lot of teams might misread AI generated insights or over rely on them. So, we need to always dig deeper into the why behind what these insights are. So, what that looks like might be, training your team to ask these critical questions about what does this mean in the real world? Are there, external factors that are influencing these insights and these trends that we're seeing? And then should we validate, an AI generated insight with additional research through interviews or surveys? So encourage cross-checking those AI insights with other sources. So looking into support call logs or direct customer interviews. And then lastly, establishing confidence thresholds. So if AI finds a pattern in 80% of the feedback, you might want to prioritize it. But if it's only, 30, 40%, you might want your teams to investigate that further and cross-check that with, other sources of data that you're using.
And Janet, that actually comes to one question that I've got for you, right? Because one of the things that can be a little bit dangerous with like a customer insights AI tool is that it actually um, can distance the product managers from the customers because they're like, oh, I can just go into this tool and look at insights. I don't need to and the tool can make my insights report for me. So I don't have to like synthesize my calls with customers, right? I don't have to do my user interviews. Like I can just pull the data from the AI tool. So like, can you name anything like specific, you're sort of hinting at it here, but like what specifically are you doing to make sure that you're not creating an over reliance on this tool as well?
Yeah, totally. It's important to continue having those customer interactions and using data across your organization and, interviewing internally as well. Your support team and your frontline teams are on the phones or, interacting through chat with your customers all day. And so they're closest to those customer needs and those pain points. So being able to rely on some of your frontline teams and other teams that are interacting with customers all day and, not relying solely on these AI generated insights is super important here. Um, Awesome. So next is encouraging iteration. So AI improves with feedback and models get smarter with use. So teams really need to be trained on continuously refining those AI prompts, having a feedback loop and being able to iterate on those tagging rules. So encourage your teams to fine tune those keyword models, correct misclassifications, and adjust thresholds. So again, AI is only as good as the feedback loops provided by, your teams here. And then lastly, integrate AI insights into existing workflows. So teams won't want to adopt a new tool if they have to change their habits too much. And so the goal is to reduce friction by integrating the tool where teams already work, may make AI a part of their natural workflow here. So that might be delivering AI insights in Slack, Jira, Notion, whatever your product teams are already using. And then automating those, AI generated reports to be reviewed in existing meetings. So you might bring it to daily stand-ups or integrate it into your sprint planning. So try and really build that training and the utilization of these AI insights into existing workflows and existing meetings. Next slide, Jenny. So what does this all look like in practice? AI-powered insights can drive measurable impact across product orgs. And so first, faster insights. You're able to process and summarize, vast amounts of customer feedback in minutes and accelerate your decision-making cycle, allowing your teams to really shift from spending a lot of time analyzing all the data that they're getting from all these different sources to making strategic decisions. The second being deeper customer understanding. So being able to aggregate, categorize and surface patterns so quickly that might otherwise be missed. Allows you to detect those recurring subtle themes that might be missed in manual synthesis. So, you might have seasonal trends like every March, all our customers ask for integrations. Why is this? And doing that manually, you might miss that. So teams can combine both, the qualitative and the quantitative insights together to prioritize more effectively. Third, being more confident in data-driven decisions. So, being able to, instead of guessing, teams can make decisions based on trends validated across thousands of data points, and then are able to prioritize, high impact product changes that show that are going to affect the most customers. And then lastly, being proactive, not reactive. So by utilizing a tool like that's powered by AI, you're able to, surface early signs of friction before they might escalate into a churned customer. Predictive analytics can highlight emerging concerns to enable teams to solve product problems more proactively. So overall, reducing your churn and then improving the customer experience. So, and then finally, something that I didn't add to the slide here, stronger alignment across your teams. Having AI generated insights ensures that your product, marketing, support, engineering teams are all working from one same source of truth, making it easier to collaborate across all these different teams. So to wrap up, AI isn't meant to replace human judgment. It's here to enhance it. By automating a lot of that heavy lifting for the data synthesis, your product teams are able to move faster, make more informed decisions, and hopefully stay better aligned with other teams in your org. Of course, successful adoption requires, thoughtful implementation, team training, and a workflow first approach. So with that, I'll pass it back to Jenny to introduce her product culture blueprint drafter.
Thank you. That was awesome. And I think, yeah, a lot of like, the things you're saying, Jenna, are things that I've been hearing from others too, right? Especially about like integrating it into the workflows, um, and making sure that, yeah, like that right, that it's not just a product tool, but that everybody has access to it. Things like that can be so helpful to, um, really leveraging the power of these tools to get that advantage across the whole org. So yeah, I am excited here to introduce, so this is something that I've been building over the past few weeks. This is a brand new sort of reveal, of the product culture blueprint drafter. So what this is it's a custom GPT. So I, used OpenAI's custom GPT tool and actually went in there and added in custom prompts and uploaded data and uploaded documentation, all of this. And what this does is if you upload a transcript of a conversation that you have had about what kind of product culture you're trying to build, it will produce a product culture blueprint. So it will produce a document that says, here are the most important elements of your product culture and why, and this is what you're going for. Or produces, I would say, a draft of it, right? That's why I call it a drafter. Human intervention always, please always drive with AI. Don't let AI drive you. So yeah, it's right. This is a little behind the scenes of how I built it. If you're not familiar with OpenAI's GPT custom GPT creator. So essentially on the right side, you can see the output. So that's where you can see me testing it, right? I've uploaded some data and some transcripts and I'm saying, please go ahead and make it. And you can see it starting to make that. On the left side, you can see the configuration. So you give it custom instructions and some conversation starters, and the knowledge is some documents, right? So I uploaded, for instance, Netflix's culture code, which is a very, very strong example of this. I uploaded some instructions and writing that I've done in the past on how to make these and how to think about it. And through this, you make your bot. And so some of the things that I learned, and I think that this shows up a lot across a lot of different AI use cases, is focus your AI tool on one task and one task only. Don't try to make it great at multiple things, but make it good, make it really, really awesome at one thing. And then if you need to do a different task, a different use case, build something separate, because these tools really start to struggle and go back into generic land the more you give them different things to do. So this one, right, it's got one workflow you can do, right, which is essentially you run a workshop or host a conversation or whatever you want to do to get that data about what kind of product culture you're trying to build. You upload the transcription artifacts. So if you have some others, in this case, I upload the Miro board from the workshop as well as the transcript. But if you had some documentation already or a slide deck or something, you can upload that. The bot asks some clarifying questions, right? So it's trained to say like, okay, tell me more about this, or I see there's a conflict here. What's actually the right answer, right? So the bot asks some questions and then you say, I'm ready, and it produces this document and it's, for you to edit. It does not do anything. It can do other stuff. I don't guarantee that that other stuff is going to go well, right? Because, any of these, they're all trained on that same open AI, or, fill in the blank, whichever AI tool it is, they're all trained on that. And so, you have a high risk of drifting into generic land. The biggest challenge that I had, right, speaking of that, is to get it to provide enough depth and quality of its answers. So, right, like in the prompt, I said, each paragraph you write, each section of this prompt should be between 250 and 500 words, right? I very clearly like forcing it to write more, so that it has to go a little bit deeper. I provided examples of what a well-structured response looks like. So training it on some data. I emphasized, right, multiple times throughout the prompt, like this response should feel unique to the company. Avoid generics, avoid platitudes. It shouldn't read like any other company, right? It should feel unique here. So saying those things over and over again were some of the things that helped me get around that, the generic elements of the model, the underlying model. A couple of small things that helped me, just some tips and tricks. I actually built out a little table in Coda to track all of my prompts and outputs and the challenges with each prompt. Because as you're editing the prompt, right, it essentially, there is a version history, but it essentially erases your previous prompt. And so you forget, so like, okay, well, for example, I think it was V4 or V5, where it started to just hallucinate a ton of stuff that it hadn't been hallucinating before. So I actually needed to step back into a different version and go back. And so having this stuff tracked was very, very, in somewhere that wasn't in the tool itself, was very helpful for me to see like, okay, this prompt struggled with these issues, but was good at that. So like maybe I need to pull right here the things that I changed between versions 3 and 4. So like how do I keep moving this forward? So I would strongly recommend doing something simple like this. I also then had the GPT start, after I had built it, I had the GPT write its own description. When you go to the page to sign up to use it, you'll see that I had the GPT write the sign up language. Because once it is trained on what it does, it actually does know that stuff very well, right? So some of the fun stuff like that. And then the other thing that I used frequently that was very, very helpful is a prompt improver. So you can see on one side, I gave it a piece of the prompt that I was working on, and then I put it into a different custom GPT, right, that somebody else had built that's trained on how to build great prompts. And you can see the export it did, right? It's far more structured. It's far more detailed. It's got bullet points. It's got different questions. It's phrased differently. It's much more robust, and it creates a much, much stronger result. So rather than trying to do your just putting in your own prompt, run it through one of these in order to, and this goes for, if you're just using a chatbot generally, but especially when you're writing these custom GPTs, the prompt improver just helped with a lot of errors that were coming up otherwise. So with that, I'm going to drop the link in the chat so that you guys can go and play with it yourself if you want. Please do ask, send questions over. If you want help and guidelines on how to have that conversation around product culture, reach out to me on the ProdOps HQ Slack. I would love to hear if this is useful for anybody else. I do this workshop with all of my clients, and so for me, it's starting to really save time in terms of that final step where I can now give them the deliverable. and it goes from taking me several hours to just, throwing it in and editing it to make sure that that there aren't any hallucinations. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Moy, who will be talking about Resolver, a tool that his team built for really that like level 2 customer support within the company.
Thanks, Jenny, for the introduction and inviting me here today. Hello, everyone. Moy Gulati here. I'm a senior product manager at RBC Digital, based out of Toronto. And I'm going to be sharing some learnings and challenges that we faced running an experiment at RBC. Um, so we started to build a RAG-based application, which is called Resolver, to offload product support and new onboardings from our core devs. And the idea was that how can we improve our SLAs and turnaround times? But more importantly, we were just spending most of our times in meetings than actually building the product. Um, so this is to talk about the lean team dynamics we had. We had just one team, approximately 10 devs. We managed three critical products, but these products are used by about 250 app consumers internally. And their respective user base could be around between 3 to 3.5 million users. So net, we were getting a lot of queries every day, and we were expected to resolve them on a daily basis, day in, day out. So that's the problem statement that we started to solve towards. Can we go to the next one? What we did was we ended up using OpenAI GPT-4 35 Turbo model 16K, and we hosted that on Enterprise Azure instance. Now we have the privilege of having a separate AI team. We are not the AI guys. We were the consumers of some of the AI work that was being used internally. And what they had done was they created a layer which is called data obfuscation layer to anonymize any sensitive data being put into prompt real time. And we used all of our product conference pages to train the GPT, and we started to sort of play with the accuracy levels. Now, some of the challenges were, we can go to the next one, Jenny, were around the training data. So that was number one. We started to realize that most of the issues have already been resolved, but the resolve has been spread across multiple places. So the way somebody would reach out to us is by creating a Jira ticket, and they'll add all the context there. But by the time we get to them, they've already shot three emails to us, and half the stuff is sitting there now. So how do we even contextualize a problem statement which has been spread across in two different places? And now one of the devs has either answered that query onto that Jira ticket, which is sitting in Confluence somewhere, or has responded to the email. So the largest part of the problem solving was around collecting all the data, consolidating all the data, and making sure the data is clean so that we are not getting hallucinations. Second part of the puzzle was that how, because we are a bank and it's very uh, heavily regulated, we can't run the risk of exposing any of our critical data or code. So how can we ensure that none of the data actually gets trained on a public GPT? So one was that we had localized inset, and then we spent a lot of time making sure the obfuscation layer was so solid. For hallucination, we couldn't resolve it. That was the net of it. We couldn't be 100% sure that there are no hallucination. So we started to look at what can we do if I am sure that there is 10%, 20% hallucination. And from an organizational standpoint, we started prioritizing the use cases that I can't make decisions on my daily basis based on the response that I get from a GPT for a critical use case. So we started prioritizing non-critical use cases, and we also mandated RACI, which is that you can make a decision and move ahead, but you also have to ensure that you document what you have learned from the GPT, and also share with certain people so that they can retrospectively review the decisions being taken from the inputs of a GPT, and reverse if anything is off the order. The last was because we were not the AI team, we were the team who really wanted AI. So most of the people in our team were Java devs, and we had to learn Python and we had to learn ML ops. And the only way to do it quickly was to really uh, go into the rooms and quarters of our AI team members and sit with them. So we didn't do Zoom meetings. We actually sat with them, ran 2 hour workshops, and we had fair amount of nuts and bolts to be able to move forward. Now, coming to the learnings. So I think we have already talked about data availability, the the future proof thinking towards building the entire application from the principles of API first and security. I think this is common knowledge at this point. But what we didn't plan were these three things. When we made our bot live, we didn't expect the amount of traction it would get in the first 2 days. So the background to that was, this was not, which is why I said this was not a product, this was an experiment that we were running. And in any experiment, we had a little bit of money allocated to it. We burned through that money within hours, not days. Um, so first learning was, whenever you are planning to roll something like this out and might help a lot of people, you do a little bit of demand planning. We found new users. We thought that, okay, anybody who emails us asking, how do I do this onboarding, this is where am I stuck, this is the error that I'm seeing, they were our target customers. But we didn't realize a lot of customers were actually the C-suite members, people who have been given this lofty presentation and they're trying to wrap their heads around that, what does it mean from a business side. They started to use Resolver to understand technical aspects into simpler languages. Then we also started to learn that some of the um, testing engineers started to write use cases based on Resolver. And that's where the third part becomes very important, which is, as soon as we realize that this is going to be more detrimental than helpful if we don't control the exposure, we had to stop it for a couple of days and run training sessions for all the concerned parties, so that we are not, because this is still an experiment, we don't know which side the coin will flip at the end of the day. uh, we wanted to control the exposure, and hence we gave very clear guidelines to all the devs, all the testing engineers, that what can you expose and what you can't. And the last part of the learning was, though we were very proud and happy that we sort of took this initiative and it sort of worked and everybody liked it, but as we started to move up the ladder, the the general feeling in the rooms were around happy but. This could be native to the sector that I'm part of, but as we started to speak across the board, this was a common feeling. At the board levels, people are happy that we are moving ahead with AI and leveraging the powers, but people are still skeptical about our responsible and accountability uh, around the technology. So whenever you are sort of doing stakeholder management internally, make sure that you spend enough time ensuring and giving confidence that you've covered all the bases.
Um,
And I'll shut up now. Any questions?
Yeah, thank you. So, thank you, Moy. And I think, right, like you are coming from the finance industry, and so yeah, that regulatory risk, right? That fear of like, okay, we have to make sure we're not leaking, like we're not accidentally training this AI on private customer data that's then going to be, caught, right? Like, or that we're getting advice from the AI that that goes against regulatory environment requirements. Like you've got comply, there's a different level there, and you can definitely see from your we can see from your presentation like how much that's a major concern for for your organization, and that, right, that's some of, I think, why you ended up having to go with a completely custom built thing. But it also sounds like there were elements where it just wouldn't have made sense for you to go with something off the shelf in this case, right? Can you explain a little bit more of that thought process?
Yeah. So, I mean, for all the reasons that you just outlined, we cannot run the risk of exposing our data. Even, I mean, now that's a common practice that the co-pilots, and so we can't access any AI website from the bank. Like literally, we can't even access it. And the underlying risk profile is that what if somebody, even for writing an email, is trying to just make sure that they're right using this right grammar, accidentally ends up exposing some information that you should not expose to the public, right? Um, so the big initiative was actually from top down, where the decision was made that we have to use it. And there's this company called Borealis that got acquired by RBC, which was an AI company, and they started to work very natively on building custom models. Um, and not just building custom models, they also started to appropriate some of the publicly available model on localized servers, so that we don't run the risk of exposing data to the public. So some of this foundational work was already done, which was native to our industry and sector and our risk profiles.
Yeah. And then, yeah, so one of the questions from the chat, and everybody, please do, if you've got comments, if you've got questions, we've got a few minutes. And so, I'm going to do some Q&A for the panel here. And then, if other people have things they want to share, if you sort of drop a little ditty about what it is in the chat, we can call on you and you can unmute and join the conversation that way. With the size of things here, I don't want to sort of have everybody unmuting, wildly, but, we will do call to unmute. So please drop your questions in the chat. And one of the questions that did pop up in the chat earlier was around hallucinations, right? So Moy, you did a really nice job of explaining that, right? You are aware that this tool is going to hallucinate, right? It is just part of what's going to happen. And so you're saying here, right, part of the training that you did was, okay, everybody, don't make major business decisions based on what the AI tells you, right? It's sort of a trust, but it sounds like you're sort of approaching it with a trust but verify mindset. Is that right?
Yeah. So we started calling use your AI than the AI that you see on screen, which is the awesome intelligence that we as human beings have. Uh, s- Basically, use common sense. Don't just become dumb because now you have something giving answers for you. Use your awesome intelligence on top of this AI, which helps you. It's artificial. It says artificial. It's not real. So you have to go with the name. I think that's how we sort of branded internally, that you should not be making real decisions with an artificial intelligence.
Yeah. And Janet, how about you? Have you guys been running into the challenge of hallucinations within the tool, within the customer insights tool, and how are you approaching that?
Totally, yeah. I think one of our, for example, House Call Pro is a SaaS solution for field service management. So think your plumbers, your HVAC company you call when your air conditioning breaks, and the solution helps with everything from estimates, invoicing to back end payroll accounting, back office payroll accounting. And so one thing we ran into early on was a lot of our customers were giving feedback around accounting. And so our AI solution couldn't distinguish the difference between, is this accounting or accounting product, or is this them giving feedback on their general, bookkeeping accounting processes that they need help with, since we also had a reporting solution. So we needed to, retrain and be able to distinguish the two between our accounting solution and then our customers just giving feedback on, the QuickBooks integration that we also supported, and being able to do accounting generally. And so it's important, once again, to not rely on those just the AI customer insights, and be able to, validate and also be checking with that human intelligence that Moy was talking about.
Yeah. Yeah. So it sounds like you're also sort of really having to train people on this human in the loop nature, right? That like, there don't, if some like make sure that you're actually seeing the data, the underlying data. And so that's a great great insight as well. Another question that that I just came in was talking about like the process to identify and select use cases, right? So like how do you choose what to go with? And I guess I mean I can start with this one, right? So for me, um, as I was sort of I started by talking to somebody who does a lot of AI work, and I was like, I want to build like just like a product operations bot so that anybody can ask it a product ops question and get answers. And the guy I was talking to was like, that's a terrible idea. And so he was the one who really pushed me into one use case. And he was like, think about something that you do frequently, that you do consistently, and that takes more time than it needs to, right? That's something that like that AI could really help with, right? So like think about those questions and find like go to the very start of your funnel, right? Something that sort of happens at the beginning of processes, pick something from that. And so that was sort of where I ended up with this culture blueprint, right? Because I'm constantly saying to everybody I talk to, like the first thing you should be doing in product ops is make sure you have your culture written down, right? So why don't I build something to help with that one particular use case, narrow, it's repeated, it's pretty consistent, there's not a lot of like the content varies from org to org, but the format doesn't have to, and like it can be pretty consistent. Um, Janet or Moy, do you want to share how you picked your particular use cases?
I can take a stab at that. So, for us, of all the problems that we were facing, we started to look at how much time do we spend on certain things. And there were certain things that could be resolved by the of process, by creating systems. And that there were certain cases where we realized that system will not do justice to this task, because even if I were, so for example, background to this is we started slotting our first half of the day, saying we will only take meetings in the first half of the day, we will not take any meeting in the second half of the day. So this was a system we established so that people could have enough time, continuous time to code and not sort of jump back and forth of meetings. So there was a system precursor to it. But we started to realize that most of the meetings had no significance in terms of new insights or new problem solving. Most of the meetings were repetitive questions that have already been answered. It's just that because there are so many people who are using it, they were not talking to each other. And we thought that why can't we now move beyond systems and create a technology layer which would resolve all of this? So that was our thought process, basically looking at very, 30,000 feet. Okay, where am I spending most amount of time, and how many dollars can be attributed to that time. For us, core devs are the most expensive resources, and they were the ones who were always invited. They don't want the junior guy, they always wanted the experienced guy to quickly resolve the problem, which is I'm spending the top dollar to answer a question which has already been answered 200 times. So it was a fairly straightforward analysis for us.
So it's that same theme again of right, a task that's getting repeated over and over and over, right? Like, right, like it's something where it's repetitive, and so that right, that should be something you're thinking about. Okay, what are tasks? What are things that we're doing repeatedly? Right, those are going to be where you're finding your opportunities. Janet, what do you want to add to that?
I think also just thinking about in terms of just time impact to the business or to the organization as a whole. So if retention is your biggest issue for your product team and you have that leaky bucket and are losing customers every month, then maybe focus your use cases on answering questions around churn. If your biggest issue is being able to get in front of your customers and get them to agree to give you that feedback, then utilize your AI to help come up with ideas on how you can get customers to talk to you and to join those interviews. So thinking about not just time, but also impact to the business.
Yeah, I think that's a great insight. And Terry also added in the chat to do your user research, right? Talk to your customers, talk to your in this case, meaning your product managers. Figure out what are the repeated things that they're spending their time on, and where are the opportunities and the use cases. So thank you, Terry, very much for sharing that. I'm going to share a question with you all, which is, what's one new thing that you're going to try today inspired by today's conversation? So please do drop your answer in the chat. I would love to see how this has gotten, and I think that it's going to be helpful for everybody in the room to see what are the different ways in which today's conversation has maybe gotten you thinking a little bit differently about how you're approaching product ops in your own role. I definitely think there's a couple of things that have popped into my head. Dave's going to make his own agent, and Terry's going to tinker with prompts a bit more. Excellent. Thank you for sharing. I would love to hear from more people. Also, Ariana asked about some of the go-to resources around learning to build bots and agents, and what's going on there. And I said that we're going to move that conversation to the Slack channel, because I am certain that you all have far more resources in that direction than I've got, or than any of the three of us have. So we're going to have that one be shared for everybody in the Slack. Let's see. Diksha is going to go learn more about prompt engineering and agents. Maro is going to explore the product blueprint bot. The prompt improver. Yay. Another person planning to make their own agent. Terry's saying Microsoft Copilot Studio is pretty awesome. So thank you for sharing that. And please do keep dropping them in the chat. We'll capture some of those and share them off in the Slack later on as well. And with that, some helpful resources. So, that's not what, there we go. So you can find me on LinkedIn or at jennywanger.com. You can subscribe to my newsletter there. I would love to see you with all of that. And I'll be sharing more also about how I built out my little bot in probably next week. So sign up for the newsletter if you're interested in that. And I'm going to pass it off to Denise. Surprise guest.
Surprise.
Yes.
No. Thanks, Jenny. Appreciate the time to chat with everybody. It's nice to see you all, and what an amazing community this has really grown into. I wanted to talk to you all about the update that Melissa and I are doing to the Product Ops book. We were so excited to get it out in October of 2023. We did not have time to do the audiobook, and we've got a lot of requests for that. And it seemed like the ideal time to sort of weave in the whole facet of how AI is providing leverage to prod ops in so many different ways. So I would love to hear from all of you any compelling AI case studies, in terms just like the ones we've seen today from Moy and Janet and Jenny. Would love to hear about what you're doing and for possible consideration in the update. So I'm going to share this in the chat. We've got a form for you. You're also welcome to reach out on LinkedIn or whatever way that you feel like is easiest for you. But we're going to be coming out with this hopefully Q2. And it'll be a quick turnaround in terms of being able to see what everybody's doing in the industry. When we put the book out, it was sort of an interesting tipping point. October 2023, generative and agentive AI was just starting to really take hold. And in the time since, it's, really burst through. So we're excited to update the book and really get more examples of how folks have used it to really high leverage effect. So hope to hear from you all, and thank you for the time.
Yeah, thank you, Denise, for joining us today again and for your continued support to our community. This was an amazing session. So I really need to thank to Jenny and also to our amazing panelists for sharing their use cases with us today. So just a reminder, this conversation does not have to end here. So please join us in Slack if you are not there yet. And I think that's all for today. Thank you a lot for everyone who joined us. I will see you next time. See you. around here. Bye-bye.